Nadia Carter walked into the bar for nothing more than a quiet drink. To Ray Maddox, she looked like just another black woman alone at the counter, an easy mark for a cheap laugh. He swaggered up with his crew behind him, every step daring her silence. Then came the slap, loud, crude, echoing through the bar as his crew roared with laughter. But what Ray couldn't see was the truth behind her calm eyes. 20 years of Delta Force training, missions buried in classified files, a lifetime of precision and restraint. He thought she'd bow her head and take it. He was wrong. And in one sudden move, Nadia Carter was about to remind everyone in that room what happens when arrogance lays hands on a soldier. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows through the grimy windows of Bulldog's Den. The bar's worn wooden door creaked open as Nadia Carter stepped inside, her eyes adjusting to the dim interior. Country music twaned from an old jukebox in the corner, competing with the click of pool balls and scattered conversations. The familiar smell of stale beer and cigarette smoke filled her nostrils. Nadia moved with quiet confidence, her footsteps barely audible on the scuffed floorboards. Her muscled arms, toned from years of military service, showed beneath her white tank top. A small scar on her right shoulder, a reminder of a mission in Kandahar, caught the light. She chose a seat at the far end of the bar, away from the cluster of regulars nursing their beers. The wooden bar stool creaked as she settled in, her posture relaxed but alert. Old habits died hard. The bartender, a middle-aged man with graying temples and tired eyes, approached. "What will it be?" he asked, wiping his hands on a dingy bar towel. "Whiskey? Neat?" Nadia replied, her voice low and steady. She placed a 20 on the counter, the motion smooth and deliberate. The bartender nodded, reaching for a bottle on the shelf behind him. Nadia's gaze swept the room, taking in every detail without seeming to look. 3 bikers played pool in the corner, their leather vests displaying patches she recognized from her intelligence briefings years ago. 2 couples occupied booths along the wall, keeping to themselves. A lone man dozed at the other end of the bar, his head nodding toward his half-empty glass. The whiskey arrived, amber liquid catching the weak light from the dusty overhead fixtures. Nadia wrapped her fingers around the glass, letting out a slow breath. The day at the veterans' shelter had been long but rewarding. She'd helped a young Marine work through his paperwork for disability benefits and counseled an Army sergeant struggling with civilian life. The work grounded her, gave her purpose beyond the classified missions that had defined her career. She took a small sip, savoring the burn. Behind her, someone laughed too loudly, trying to draw attention. Nadia didn't turn around. Instead, she watched the bartender's reflection in the mirror behind the bottles, noting how his shoulders tensed. The front door banged open, letting in a blast of hot air and the rumble of motorcycle engines. Heavy boots thudded on the wooden floor, accompanied by the jingle of chains and the creak of leather. The atmosphere in the bar shifted immediately. Conversations died. Q stopped mid-stroke, and several patrons suddenly became very interested in their drinks. In the mirror's reflection, Nadia watched 5 men enter. Their leather cuts marked them as members of the Iron Dogs MC, the local motorcycle club that controlled most of the illegal activity in 3 counties. Their leader, Ray Bulldog Maddox, stood a head taller than the others, his massive frame taking up more space than necessary. Nadia had read his file during her first week in town. 3 arrests for assault, suspected ties to drug trafficking, but no convictions. The local law enforcement's reluctance to pursue charges told her everything she needed to know about the depth of corruption in the area. She took another sip of whiskey, maintaining her calm demeanor. The jukebox switched to a Merle Haggard song about outlaws, the irony not lost on her. The bartender had retreated to the other end of the bar, suddenly very busy wiping already clean glasses. The bikers claimed their usual table, their voices growing louder as they ordered their first round. Nadia could feel eyes on her back, but didn't acknowledge them. She'd spent years perfecting the art of being present but unremarkable, of blending in while remaining aware of every potential threat. Her fingers traced the rim of her glass as she recalled similar situations in dozens of countries, different languages, different weapons, but the same fundamental dynamics of power and intimidation. She'd faced down warlords and arms dealers, survived firefights and ambushes. This was familiar territory, even if the setting was different. "Hey, Bobby," Bulldog's voice boomed across the bar. "Where's that beer? Don't make me come back there and pour it myself." The bartender, Bobby, hurried to deliver their drinks, his hands slightly shaky as he set down the bottles. Laughter erupted from their table, mean-spirited and sharp. Nadia noticed how the other patrons seemed to shrink into themselves, trying to become invisible. She checked her watch. 6:45 p.m. The shelter would be closing now. Mark and Sarah taking care of the evening routine she'd taught them. Good kids, both of them. Army veterans trying to find their way back to civilian life. They reminded her of herself years ago, learning to live with the weight of what she'd seen and done. The noise from the biker's table grew louder. A chair scraped against the floor, followed by heavy footsteps. In the mirror, Nadia watched Ray rise from his seat. His eyes fixed on her. He nudged one of his companions, jerking his head in her direction with a smirk that promised trouble. His crew exchanged knowing looks, settling in to watch whatever show their leader had planned. Ray Bulldog Maddox started moving toward the bar, his path deliberate and predatory. His reflection grew larger in the mirror as he approached, a wolf sizing up what he thought was easy prey. He had no way of knowing that the quiet woman in the white tank top had once commanded elite military units, that her calm exterior masked years of combat experience and tactical training. The distance between them shortened with each heavy step. The jukebox switched to a Hank Williams song as Ray's footsteps drew closer. Nadia kept her eyes forward, watching his approach in the mirror while maintaining her practiced stillness. She took another small sip of whiskey, letting the warm liquid linger on her tongue. The other patrons shifted uncomfortably in their seats, sensing the coming confrontation. A couple near the door quietly settled their tab, slipping out before whatever was about to happen could unfold. The pool players stopped their game entirely, cues held loose in their hands as they watched their leader stalk toward the bar. Ray's heavy breathing carried the smell of cheap beer as he got closer. His reflection showed a wide, cruel smile spreading across his face, the kind of smile that had probably preceded countless acts of intimidation in this very bar. His little fingers' makeshift brass knuckles caught the light. "Well, well," Ray drawled, loud enough for his crew to hear. "What do we have here? Don't usually see your kind in my establishment." Nadia didn't respond. She lifted her glass again, the motion smooth and controlled. Her fingers tracked every movement while appearing focused on her drink. Years of training had taught her to read a situation through the smallest details. The slight shift of weight before an attack, the tensing of muscles before a strike. Behind Ray, his crew had arranged themselves in a loose semicircle, ready for whatever entertainment their leader had planned. They elbowed each other, snickering and whispering. The bartender had retreated to the far end of the bar, suddenly very busy wiping already clean glasses. "Hey, I'm talking to you," Ray said, moving closer. His massive frame now blocked most of the light from the overhead fixtures, casting a shadow across the bar. "Ain't you got any manners?" Nadia set her glass down carefully, perfectly centered on the coaster. Her fingers remained loosely curled around it, ready but relaxed. She'd been in this position before, not in bars, but in compounds and safe houses across the world, waiting for the right moment while maintaining absolute control. Ray leaned against the bar, intentionally crowding her space. "Come on, sugar, don't be like that. We're all friends here." He looked back at his crew, who laughed on cue. The sound echoed off the walls, harsh and artificial. The air in the bar grew thicker, charged with tension. Even the jukebox seemed to be playing softer, as if the machine itself was trying to avoid drawing attention. Nadia remained still, her breathing steady and controlled. She could smell the leather of Ray's vest, the mixture of cigarettes and motor oil that clung